For the Cherries Crossbody Belt Bag, these are the materials we're going to be working with. You're going to need 2 balls of yarn. We're going to be working with the Yarn Bee Fundamental Cotton, 1 ball in white, and 1 ball in this lipstick red. This is a 100% mercerized cotton yarn. It has a twisted finish, a slight sheen, and it is really sturdy, so it'll hold up well for a bag. We're going to be working this with a Tunisian crochet hook, size 4mm. We'll also be using a small crochet hook later for working the cherry stems. This is a size B 2.5mm crochet hook. It doesn't really matter exactly what size, we just want a small one that'll work up well. We'll be working those stems with some green embroidery floss. We'll need some sewing thread and needle for stitching the zipper to the bag, tapestry needle for sewing in the loose ends. You're going to need a parachute buckle and a slide that will fit a 1-inch strap. And then lastly, we'll be working with a 9-inch zipper. If you have trouble sourcing a 9-inch zipper, I did find a great selection at zippershipper.com, which is where I sourced this one. For the Cherries Crossbody Belt Bag, we're going to first start out working our front panel, which I have a finished front panel piece here with the cherries, and a back panel piece. So this is worked in Tunisian simple stitch. So the way we're going to work this is actually this direction. We are going to construct 2 panels. This is the back panel. We'll construct it vertically like this. And then when we're done, we will turn it horizontally for the bag. And that's how it'll be for the front for the cherries. We'll work it vertically, turn it horizontally, and then we'll work our cherries motif on top. So if you're not familiar with Tunisian simple stitch, that's okay. I'm going to work it out with you here right now. And I do also have some tutorial videos specifically on Tunisian crochet and Tunisian simple stitch that you're welcome to check out that might help a little bit more. We are not going to work the full panels, but I'm going to work up a swatch with you that will show the exact Tunisian simple stitch. So you're going to take your white yarn and your Tunisian crochet hook and make a slip knot on your hook. Oop. We're going to work the swatch up with, I'm going to say 14 stitches just to get you going. It's a repetitive stitch, so once you have the process down, it goes really smoothly. So the first thing you're going to do is chain your 14. Okay, so that's 14 right there. For Tunisian crochet, you have a forward pass and then a closing pass. So your forward pass, all your loops will stay on your hook, and then on your closing pass, you'll be working them off your hook. So you're going to stick your hook in that first chain, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Now you have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to do that in each chain across, insert hook, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Insert your hook in the next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop. You're going to do this in every chain across until we have 14 loops on our hook, since we had 14 chains. Okay, so that would be our forward pass right there, 14 loops. So now we need to close them, work them off of our hook. So the very first stitch we close, we always yarn over and pull through 1, always on that edge stitch. After that, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 all across. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, all the way to the end. The only time we only pull through 1 is at that very edge stitch. This is what they call the foundation row for Tunisian crochet. You always have to have a foundation row to get you started, regardless of what stitch you decide to work with. So you always end up with one loop left on your hook, which stays there. This loop will always act as the first stitch of the next row. So for Tunisian simple stitch, this is probably the easiest Tunisian stitch. You're going to be inserting your hook under this vertical bar. This vertical bar right here. Each time you're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. This is really easy to catch. And same thing, we're going to keep those loops on our hook all the way across for our forward pass and then work them off on our closing pass. So insert your hook right to left under that vertical bar, yarn over and pull up a loop. Under the vertical bar, yarn over, pull up a loop. You're going to do this all the way across, which again will leave you with 14 loops on your hook. And then the very last stitch. Now we're ready to close our stitches. So yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. You're going to be doing this all the way across. Yarn over, pull through 2. And there you end row 2 with one loop left on your hook, which will start your row number 3. So the first row, row 1, also your foundation row. We just did row 2, and we would be starting on row 3. Just repeating the same process for the Tunisian simple stitch, going under that vertical bar and pulling up a loop. Pretty simple. So you're just going to reference your pattern, work the indicated amount of stitches and indicated amount of rows until you've completed 2 panels. So you have your back panel and then your front panel. Your front panel obviously won't have the cherries yet. Your front panel will be longer than your back panel. Something to note when you are doing this, these pieces have been blocked. Tunisian crochet has a tendency to roll like this. That's fine and that's normal. You're not doing anything wrong. These have been blocked, but they still want to curl a little bit. That's okay. The other thing is your left side of your work will stretch a little bit more, and you will notice it might be a little bit longer than the right side. That is fine. It is going to shore up later, so don't worry about that at all. So again, reference your pattern, work up your front panel piece, your back panel piece, and then I will meet back up with you and we will work our bottom panel. I've just completed my last row for the bottom panel. Now what I want to do is go ahead and do a slip stitch across the top, then we'll pivot and then slip stitch down this left side. Now we're only going to be slip stitching down the left side, not the right side, because the right side already has this nice edge finish. In the left side, it looks a little bit different. It will stretch out a little bit more. And that's just the nature of that Tunisian simple stitch on the left side. Oftentimes people will do a Tunisian knit stitch in that last stitch to shore it up a little bit and to make it look similar to the stitch on the right. However, I like for this bag to just go ahead and slip stitch. So insert your hook under that vertical bar, just as you would do if you were doing simple stitch. Yarn over, pull through a loop, and then just slip stitch, continue to pull through. Just slip stitch through each of these across until you get to that corner. When you get to the corner, all you want to do is chain 1 and then turn. Just pivot. That chain 1 will just kind of square that edge there. And then just do a slip stitch in each stitch down that side of that bottom panel. And like I said, just that left side. We don't need to work it on the right side. Then you're going to tie off. I do like to leave a long yarn tail though, because that will come in handy when we attach the bottom panel to the bag. So just continue this all the way down, tie off, and then leave that long yarn tail. I've just finished the bottom panel. I've slip stitched across the top and down that left side. I made sure to leave a long yarn tail, which will come in later when we're attaching that to the bag. So now we're ready to go on and work the short strap. I'm going to work that out with you on camera because there are some decreases. So go ahead and make your slip knot, same as before. And we're going to start with a chain 9. We're going to go ahead and do our foundation row, but the thing we're going to do different, instead of just going in these chains to pull up the loop, we're going to turn it and go under this back bump. Similar in other types of crochet, it looks a little bit nicer. And it does take a little bit more work to catch that back hump to go through. That's why we didn't do it on the big panels, but since this is only 9 stitches, and because it's going to leave a nicer edge for when we attach it to the bag, we're going to go through those. So same thing, you're going to go through, yarn over and pull up a loop. The only difference is we're going to turn it to the back and go under that back bump there. It just takes a little bit more time catching it. But since it's only 9 stitches, we'll make it work. Okay, there's that 9th stitch. So we have our forward pass. And you can see right there, it gives that chain appearance, which is a little bit more decorative than just going through that top loop of the chain. Same process, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, all the way across. So that is our row 1, also our foundation row. We're going to do Tunisian simple stitch in the next 3 rows. And then for the next row, which is actually row 5, we're going to do a decrease, and I will meet back up with you to show you how to work that decrease. So just work a total of 4 rows, so 3 more than what we have, and I'll meet right back up with you. So for our short strap, we have 4 rows of the Tunisian simple stitch. Now we're going on to row 5, but we're going to work a decrease. So we're going to go under these vertical bars, just as we did before, but we start with our 1 loop on the hook. Instead of going under just 1, we're going to go under the first 2. Yarn over and pull up a loop. So there's our decrease. We decreased those 2 stitches to 1. Work a regular Tunisian simple stitch in the next 3 stitches. And then you're going to work 1 more decrease going under these 2 bars. Then yarn over and pull up your loop. Super easy. And then do a Tunisian simple stitch in that very last loop. So that reduces it. We started with 9, now we should have 7, 2, 4, 6, 7. And that's our decrease right there. We will go ahead and close them just like every other row. So pretty easy. Whenever you're doing those decreases, you're just going under 2 bars instead of 1, just like a, single crochet 2 together, same concept, but we're Tunisian simple stitching 2 together. So from here on out, reference your pattern, finish your short strap, then you'll go on to your long strap. Both of them are the same exact process. You'll start with 9, you'll have a couple decreases, and then you'll just work those straps up. When you get to the end of the straps, same thing we did here on our bottom panel, you're going to slip stitch across the top and slip stitch across that left side, okay? You can leave yarn tails on those as well if you'd like. It just kind of helps so you don't have as many yarns to weave in at the end. And then after we have all these pieces, I'm going to meet back up with you and I'm going to show you how to work that cherries motif on the front panel of your bag. At this point, you should have all of your panels for the bag complete. This is a finished panel of the front with the cherries motif. I'm going to show you next how to work that cherry motif on this sample piece, which is Tunisian simple stitch. It's just a small little swatch. So first you're going to be working with your lipstick red yarn. And you're going to stick with a 4mm hook. You can stick with your Tunisian hook if you already have it out and want to, that's fine. Or if you don't like how long it is and you find that harder, then go ahead and switch to a regular 4mm hook. So you're going to take your yarn. I like to leave about 6 inches yarn tail. Make a slip knot. This is going to be pretty easy. You're going to be surprised. Chain 3. And then we are going to be working in that very first chain we made. So yarn over as if you're doing a double crochet, insert your hook into that first chain made, yarn over and pull up a loop. We're going to yarn over and pull through 2. And unlike a double crochet, we would normally yarn over and pull through those 2. We're not going to do that. We're going to yarn over, go through that chain again, yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over and only pull through 2 again. We're going to continue to only pull through 2. We're going to do this a total of 4 times. So yarn over, again, insert in that first chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn up and pull through 2. So that has, right now we have 4 loops on our hook. We're going to do it one more time. Yarn over. You can see that first chain's getting loopy. That's okay. Don't worry about that. Insert it in that same chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So at this point, you should have 5 loops on your hook. This one's kind of loopy. I'm probably going to do that one again. Kind of lost the tension on that one, but same thing, yarn over and pull through 2. Okay, so you should have 5 loops on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to yarn over and pull through all 5. I like to tug it to cinch it tight, and then just chain 1, which kind of locks it tightly in place. After that, after I chain the 1, I also leave about a 6-inch tail. And just cut that and pull it through. When I pull it through, I pull it snug right there. And you'll see where you started that chain, it got nice and loose. Just tug that tight as well. So you're just going to pull that tight. Now you created your little ball, your little puff, which will be your cherry. So the reason I have these yarn tails is because it makes it super easy to attach. So for my first yarn tail, I will insert my tapestry needle. And we're just going to put on a random spot on the swatch. When you buy the PDF, when you purchase that, it does come included with a chart, which will show you the suggested placement of all the cherries on that front panel piece, as well as the stem. So it makes it really easy, so you don't need to figure it out. You don't need to figure out how to evenly distribute it so they're spaced. That will be included with that PDF. But just for this tutorial, we're just going to do it on this sample. So this is the bottom of my cherry, and I'm going to put it right here. So I just take my tapestry needle and pull that right through. I'm going to release it, thread the other yarn tail, and I can see, turn this so you can see it, right here is where I came up. I'm just going to go directly in the space right above it, so there's even a little hole. Just going to go right there, insert my needle, and pull that through. And then just pull that yarn tail. So right there, you'll see that. That's our little cherry. You can turn it to the back. And because this bag is going to be lined, it's going to make it really easy because we're not going to worry about tying in all these yarn tails. I'm going to tie a knot, and again, a double knot. Once I get that pretty secure, I can just trim that off. Just like that. So there's our first cherry. I'm going to show you one more time with the second one, and then I'll show you how to do those stems. Move this to the side. Okay, so again, leave about 6-inch tail. Make your slip knot. And you can work these up pretty quick once you get the hang of it. chain 3, 1, 2, 3, yarn over and insert into that first chain you made. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. 2 loops on our hook. We're going to continue, yarn over, insert it into that first chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, only pull through 2. Now we have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to wait and do it 4 times until we have a total of 5 loops on our hook. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through the first 2. Now we're at 4 loops. We're going to go one more time, yarn over into that chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Now we have 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yarn over, pull through all 5 and cinch tight, chain 1, and then I cut, leaving about a 6-inch yarn tail. And then just pull that through and cinch that nice and tight. Same thing, it's going to be very normal that this one's going to get loose because it's a slip stitch. And because you keep going that chain, no big deal, just pull it tight. And there you have it. And kind of shape that second cherry. And it really doesn't matter top or bottom. I prefer where you start that bottom slip stitch to be on the bottom. That's just my preference. But you can do it however you like. So you're going to come over and we're going to do our second cherry. This one is going to be slightly staggered. So right here, I can pull this and see it was in this hole here. I'm going to count over 2, 1, 2, and up 1. And I'm going to put the bottom of my cherry right there. Thread your other yarn tail. And same as before, I just pull this back. And if this one's coming out this space, I'm going to go directly in the space right above it. And this one, sometimes I will come a little skew right there and go in between those stitches just because I want my cherries touching. I don't want a gap between them. I want them touching. Now I've found if I actually go right above and come a little bit right in between, split those stitches, it kind of works out just perfectly. So pull that. Then I can kind of move those, shape them how I like. That looks pretty good. And then I come to the back and same thing. Just tie a double knot. Nice and secure. Okay, and then you're just going to trim those off. You really don't want these too long. You don't want to cut them so short that they're going to come untied, but also you don't want too much of this yarn strung behind because you don't want to show through to the front through that white. Okay, so we have our 2 cherries. Pretty simple, not as hard as you probably thought it would be. Now we're going to work our stems. So for the stems, I'm using this size B crochet hook. It's pretty small, but it works perfectly with this embroidery floss. Which if you find a really thin fingering weight yarn that you like in the green, that's fine as well. I'm really picky on the green tone I wanted and I didn't find one I liked, but I found this worked perfectly and it's so affordable. So this is a good route to go as well. So same thing, we're going to start with about 6 inches. We're going to make a slip knot. And we are going to chain 10. You want these to be pretty consistent size so it looks nice and clean. Now this is probably really small to see, but it's just a chain. Work up your 10 chains. Once I get that 10th, I'm going to cut off, leaving about 6 inches, and I'm going to pull that through. And I'm going to tug a little bit tight. If you can see, that kind of just tightens that last chain to kind of knot it and lock it in place. And I'll do the same at the bottom, just a little bit. So there you have, it's just 10 chains right there for our stem. We're going to do one more, exactly the same. However, this one will only be 6 chains. Trim that and then pull through. And same thing, let's get this out of the way. Just pull that a little tight, just locking that in place. Okay, so we have a short one and a longer one. This is for our cherry stems. So bring this back and always start with your longer one. That is easier. You're just going to thread this on your tapestry needle. And we are going to go in the cherry that's higher, the same space right there that we came in from the cherry. So really easy to spot. Insert your needle and just pull it through. Okay. Thread the other yarn tail. And this one we're going to come up. And like I said, there will be exact placement on that chart when you purchase a pattern, but it's going to be right about there. And when I get this in there, I can release that needle. I like to turn it. I want to make sure my chains are facing front way up top, so it looks nice and clean. This can come twisted. You don't want the back showing. It's not a huge deal, but it does look a lot nicer and cleaner if it's orientated the proper way. Okay, so once you get that right like that, turn to the back. And super easy, tie that double knot again. This one I'm not going to cut off because I'm going to tie it with the other one just to make sure it's nice and tight. So I'll leave those for a minute. And now I'm going to do my other stem. Thread one of the yarn tails. And now we're going to be going in the same exact hole with the other cherry, right there at the very top. Pull that through. And then thread the other. And this is just preference, but I like to pull this tight and tie it tightly behind, but then once I get it like this, I kind of move it with my finger. I want it to be slightly curved, and even if you tie it tight, it still allows a little bit of movement like that. And then once you have a shape you like, kind of like that, you can take the smaller one and lay it down and see where you like it to attach. I'm thinking right there. So what you're going to do is insert, to keep this curve, you're going to insert your needle for the second stem right there in between that chain and then go straight down. That'll lock it in place, keeping that curve you just made. Right there you can see my chain turned, and I don't want that, so I'm just going to use my fingers and twist it around. And you can do this pretty easily once you get it in there. So make sure you like that shape. Once you do, you're good to go. I think that looks pretty good. So turn to the back, and then you're going to find the two you just did, which are hiding on me right there. And then tie that double knot like we've been doing. Once I get that, I'll take this tail and one for my other and just tie one more knot just to make sure it's secure. There we go. And then one more right there. Then you can take your scissors and just trim these off fairly close so they're out of the way. And there you have it. There's your cherry motif. So you're going to want to repeat this on your front panel. And like I said, there will be that chart included. You can do your own placement or you can follow that chart and get those all stitched on there. Once you have that, meet back with me and I'm going to show you how to start constructing your bag and placing those panels together. At this point, you should have all of your panel pieces complete. We have our back panel, which remember we constructed this way vertically. Now we're going to turn sideways horizontally to construct the bag. And I did block these. They still like to roll. Don't worry about that. When we stitch them together to form the bag, it'll take care of all that curl. We have our front panel piece with our finished cherries motif. Looks really cute. Have our bottom panel. So we have a short strap and then we have our long strap. And as you can tell here, I like to leave these long yarn tails on a lot of my pieces just for sewing together when we're constructing the bag. It's just less ends to tie in and weave in later. So we are going to first start to construct the bag with the front panel and the back panel. So before this, you would have wanted to orientate yourself with the top of the panel when you did your cherries. So you'll see the top has that nice chain edge. We want that on top because that's going to line up right with our zipper and give a nice finished edge. So that will be our top. So when we find our back piece, same thing, make sure it's that nice chain edge. So we're going to take the back piece and right here you'll see where it's kind of curled, but this is where we started with that chain. So we did not go in that back bump, we just went right in that top loop, which made it really quick and easy, but it's not as decorative and nice. And this one here on the front has that nice chain edge because that's where we finished and then we slip stitched across. So we want this nice chain edge on the front panel piece to slightly overlap the back one. So it's going to come like this and slightly overlap, just like that. So when it's done, you'll see that nice edge finish. So the way to do that, you're going to get a piece of scrap white yarn. I didn't leave yarn tails on these. You could have if you wanted to. And thread that to your tapestry needle. And I know this is a little difficult to see because it's in white, but I will try my best. So for the front panel, if you see, we talked about that chain, that right there, that nice edge. We don't want to grab that. So intuitively, it might seem like we want to catch these back loops, but that's going to pull and it's going to distort it and it's not going to look nice. And then we're not going to have that nice finished chain edge. So instead, if you slightly turn to the back, you'll see these horizontal bars. Some people call them the back third loop right there. I'm showing you. These are the ones you're going to want to go in. They're right behind the back two. So you see the top two, right behind there are those horizontal bars. So these are the ones you're going to be catching. It's going to make it nice and snug and secure, and it's not going to distort this chain. On this side, same thing. You're not going to be grabbing these because all it's going to do is pull it like this and make it gappy. We don't want it to look gappy. So instead, we are going to be going under these vertical bars. So the bars that you're very familiar with by now, because they're the same vertical bars that we've been doing our Tunisian simple stitch under. So after we catch that horizontal bar on the front piece, we will just come and catch this bar right here and pull it snug. So I'm going to show you, we're going to get started. Once you get going, it's pretty easy. The first one's always a little tricky to start, but we're going to grab that horizontal bar. It's kind of turned on that corner piece. That's okay. And I do like to leave a little bit of a tail because once I'm done, if I notice it's a little gappy or needs an extra stitch or two, I can just come back and thread my tapestry needle onto this yarn tail and put a couple extra stitches in there if need be. So I leave a little bit there, and then I'm going to catch this horizontal or that vertical bar, I'm sorry, that we did those simple stitches in, and just pull through. I'm going to leave it a little loose for the first couple stitches, and then we'll cinch it tight. So again, right here, if you can see that horizontal bar, and then I'm going to catch that vertical bar that we did the simple stitch. Okay, I'm just going to go right across, and they should line up just perfectly. Horizontal bar, pull that through, and then the vertical bar right here on the back piece. I left those loose just to show you, but ideally you'd be pulling those tight as you go. I'm going to cinch them tight right now. And when you do that, it will naturally layer that front piece right on top, just like that. So when you pull those tight, it'll layer it and you'll have a nice clean looking seam with that nice edge trim. And right here is why I leave this, just in case at the end we want to tack it one more time. Sometimes these can get gappy, kind of pull at the edges. So just work this all the way up that side, and then you're going to do the same thing to the other side. You're going to have the same overlap, except for on this one, your back piece has that nice edge finish. So you'll do the same exact process, but your back piece will be overlapping the front. You'll still be going in that horizontal bar and under those vertical bars. So work those up, and I'll meet back up with you for the next step. So once you finish those side seams, it should look really nice and clean. This is what your front looks like. The front wraps around on the side here, and those two seams will be slightly to the back right there. So right here, you're actually going to have a slight side piece of your bag. It's continued from the front panel piece, so there's not another seam, but there will be a side piece right here and right here. So the next step is to turn to the front, and we are going to use some scrap red yarn and our tapestry needle, and we're going to just make these large basting lines. They're just going to help us place the zipper properly, and we'll just pull them out when we're done. So I found this to be the easiest way. So go to that seam side on each side, and you're going to want to count over 6 rows so you can see each row, and then we're going to do our baseline. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and right after that we're going to insert our needle and just work up a basting line. Doesn't have to be perfect or going through the same amount of stitches, just so you kind of have this as a guideline. It's going to really help us put our zipper in the proper place. Okay, so just like that. So there should be 6 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then your basting line, so that's correct. And then I'm going to trim it off. We don't need that long hanging off of there. And then turn to the other side. And this basting line will go in the front. So as you see, and that kind of marks it too and shows you that side piece I was talking about. So right here, your zipper will kind of pinch it together, but our bottom piece will make that side more distinct right there at the bottom. So these basting stitches, like I said, will be on the front panel piece. So same thing on this side. Get another scrap yarn, and we're counting over towards the front panel. So the first row was kind of tucked under right here because remember we overlapped it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's going to be this line right here. Same thing. Just work a wide basting stitch. Okay, so just like that, just trim off so we don't have excess yarns in our way. So that's what we're looking at. That will help us with our zipper. So next, we are going to insert the zipper, and we're going to hand stitch that using sewing needle and thread. If you don't like to sew or you think that's difficult, you're welcome to try and use fabric glue. I haven't tried it for this application, but you can certainly try and see if that works for you. But this really isn't too difficult. You don't have to have any expert sewing skills. I'm going to walk you right through it. And we're going to leave our bottom open. We'll come back and do that after the zipper. So we're going to start with our front piece and our zipper. We're going to open the zipper. I find that a lot easier to work with. And then we are going to start with the zipper teeth right here. It's going to match up with a space line. So this space line here, we want it actually to be about 1/8 inch over to the right of this top zipper stop. So right there where we marked it, that's why it comes in handy, helps us with our placement. About 1/8 of an inch over to the right. We'll take our straight pin and pin that right there. Okay, then we'll come to this side, turn your bag, and then if you zip this up a little, it helps. So this basting line, we are going to have right on the other side of this bottom zipper stop. So right about there. Get that pin in there. Once you have that, if you want to open it back up, it does make it easier. And open it up, and then we're going to distribute this zipper tape across and pin it. Right like that. So I'm going to pin the middle one. And then I'm just going to work it across, pinning with straight pins. And it should be pretty close to a perfect fit. It could be slightly off. If it's slightly too big or too small, you can kind of work with it and make it work. But this is a perfect example of why it is so important to do your gauge swatch before starting, because everybody's tension is different. And even though you're following the same rows, the same, stitch count, and even using the same yarn, your tension may be looser or tighter, so you may end up with a different size when you're done. And blocking these pieces also helps you manipulate that a little bit. You can block it to the exact size you need by stretching or kind of pushing it in to get that desired finish measurement, which I will provide in the pattern. So once we have that front zipper tape, we're going to stitch that one and then come back and stitch the other. So up front, you'll see this one kind of flop in here. Don't worry about that. What we're going to do is kind of push that down so we don't see it. And we can turn it and stick a pin in there. And we will tack that as well with our needle and sewing thread. So you want it to look like this from the front. You want to see that top zipper stop, and then that tape will kind of just bend right in there and be hidden. So that all looks really good. We are going to go ahead and start on this edge. Don't worry about this zipper tape here at the end. We'll work that in later. I like to double my thread up so it's 2 threads thick. I have it on my sewing needle. I have a little knot at the bottom, and I'm going to start right here by this bottom zipper stop. I'm going to come from the bottom, and what I'm going to want to do, show you here with this hook, I'm going to be working my stitches right under these loops here. So this chain that we like that look and we want it right up to those zipper teeth, we're going to be catching our stitches right underneath. So they're not going to show, but it's going to look really nice and clean. So coming back, I'm just going to pull my thread up. Oop, I lost that knot. And get that going again. Okay, so we're going to come up right there. And then go, just catch 1 yarn thickness and go right back down. And pull that snug. I'm going to actually pull this a little down. We want to keep it at the bottom. That will help us a little bit later. It's not as important, but I'm going to pull this down just so it's out of the way. Kind of trim that. Now that we have that placement, we don't need it as much. Okay. So I'm just going to come up right there. And go right back down. And if you take your nail, you can kind of pull that up and then tuck it under so it's enclosed. With the white, it blends in pretty well, so you really won't see it at all. But you do want to get it up there pretty close to those zipper teeth because it will look really nice, but not so close that you can't slide your zipper. So if you do it too close, when you go to do that zipper, it'll catch on the stitches and it won't slide. So you want to go a little ways and then test that zipper and make sure it's good. Make sure it has a nice, smooth, clean slide. If it does catch on those stitches, just take them out and restart and make sure you're not doing it quite as close. But just like this, I'm going to work it all the way across. Pretty easy. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just coming up, catching a yarn and going right back down. Like I said, right under those front loops of those stitches. And then once you get, I'm going to pull this pin out. Once you get a couple, like I said, test that zipper. That slides really nice. Make sure they're not catching. So just continue to work that all the way up, attaching that zipper tape. And once you get to the front, where I mentioned this one, you know, just tack it down here a few places to keep that zipper tape tucked down there. And then I'm going to catch up with you and we will do the other side of the zipper. Once you have that zipper sewn in all the way, make sure you test it. Like I said, check that zipper. It's really nice. Make sure it has a nice glide. It looks really nice with those stitches right up against the zipper teeth, but we didn't do it so close that our zipper got stuck, so that's great. As you can see right here in the front, I tack that zipper tape down so it looks nice and clean. And now we're ready to go to the other side and attach this zipper tape to the back. So open it back up and then flip it to the back. So we did the red basting stitches on the front, and these seams right here will act as your guidelines for the back zipper. So let's start right here. We're going to be doing this front where it attaches to this top zipper stop, and we're going to go to the seam. So right here, the seam, we're going to follow this mark right here. So you see that nice trim edge. So right here where that meets, we're going to want to do the same thing and put that about 1/8 of an inch after that top zipper stop. So right there, so not this side of it, but this side right here on the back. So right about there. Pin that with your straight pin. And same thing with this zipper tape in the front. We're just going to tuck that down just like that. You can turn it, put a pin in there, and we'll tack that when we stitch it down as well. So see how nice that's going to look with those both showing but both tucked in. We're going to come to the back. This side's a little tricky because it's attached here, but I'll show you. I'm going to zip this a little bit and tuck it in at the end. And then what we want is going to kind of manipulate that to turn it. Okay, so same thing right here. This is acting as our seam. We want this side of it where it meets the front and not this side. And we're going to match that up. We want that right at the top of that bottom zipper stop. So it's a little trickier to pin, but just pinch it like that and put it on there. Okay, once you get a pin in there pretty good, you can open it back up just because it does make it easier. And then you're just going to work your pins all the way down. So I like to first make sure it's distributed and put a pin right there in the middle. And then we can go and put the rest of our stitch pins. Pinning that tape to the back of the bag. Okay, so once we have that, we are going to do the exact same thing. Start with a new needle and thread. Make sure it's long enough, 2 strands thick, and then I will start right up here at the front. So since I'm starting at the front, I'll probably just start with tacking down that zipper tape. So I'm just going to go in pretty much anywhere and just go down almost where I came back in just to tack that in place. And really this white thread is hidden, you just don't see it. So you don't have to be that careful. I have one down here, I'm going to come just randomly right there. We just want to do a few just to make sure that stays tucked down. And once we do our lining, it'll be enclosed, but we still just want to make it easier on ourselves. Okay, so now we can go and work the same exact thing. We're going to be stitching up and down right under that top chain row right there, so it's hidden. Catching those cherries. Okay. Pull that snug. Like I said, you want to have that nicely against the zipper tee so it looks really nice, but not so high that your zipper is going to catch the thread, the stitch line. So same as the other side, just work this all the way to the other end. When you get to the end right here, this is where you're going to want to stitch the bottom zipper tapes, the ones that kind of flap there down. I kind of just have them tucked down right now like you see. But once you get down there and you stitch this, you can just tack it a couple places here and right here on the other side, which we didn't get the first time, just to keep them from popping up the top. We don't want that to happen. But really, just stitch this right by the zipper. When you get to here, all it needs is a couple places tacked here and here, and it will stay perfectly. So work that on the other side. Tack that at the end and then tie off, and then we will be ready to attach the bottom panel next. Okay, so we've completely finished sewing in our zipper. It looks really nice and clean with this chain edge stitching coming right up to the zipper teeth. It butts up right at the end on each side, so it looks really nice and clean. The next step is to go on to our bottom panel, attaching that. So like I showed you, this basting stitch shows our side right there and right here. So those sides are going to be matching up with our short sides of the bottom panel, like this. So we're going to start with our front side first and work our way around. We already have this yarn tail from that bottom panel I have on there. So using these guidelines right here at the bottom of the bag, we're going to start with the front. And I'm going to take this along side of the bottom panel and match it up. So the edge right here is going to match up right there with that basting stitch. And we're just going to take our straight pins and pin that. Come to the other side, same thing. And take the edge of that panel, match it right up to that basting stitch because that's marking the end of the front. And pin that. And these are being pinned with wrong sides together and right sides out. So right side facing out, right side facing out. We're just going to be pinching these together while we're sewing it. It's going to be super quick and easy. Once we have those two ends, just pin all along that one front side. We're just going to do one side at a time. So we still have this yarn tail and the tapestry needle. So we're going to work this similar as before, catching those back horizontal bars. So I'm going to turn it this way, orientate it so you can see. And I'm going to take out this last pin right here. So we're going to want to be going in these horizontal bars, just like we did before on those side seams. So horizontal bars. And same thing, this side has the horizontal bars as well on the inside. So we're just going to catch each of the horizontal bars. Make sure this is to the edge right here. Okay, so first I'm going to catch this horizontal bar. Looks like my basting stitch is covering it. Right there. And this horizontal bar right there. And pull that through. And then we're just gonna go down, horizontal bar, on the inside and the next horizontal bar. I'm just going to pull that snug all the way across, just catching each horizontal bar right on the inside. So we still, like before, we still want that nice trim edge showing on the outside. So if we catch those inside stitches, not only is it sturdy, but it will give us a nice finish. So just work this all the way across, catching those inside horizontal bars. And then I will show you how we will pivot on that side and work that side of the bag. When you've come to the end of that front piece, connecting it to the bottom panel, you're just going to pivot. So you're going to turn this, and you see that seam right there on the side. This short end is just going to match up right like that with that side piece. So you're just going to pivot that, but you're going to do the same thing. So I just kind of open that up, find that inside horizontal bar and the inside horizontal bar. Just make sure to pull those tight at the corners. If you need to, you can put a couple extra stitches in there if you don't think it's going to stay, but you definitely don't want it to be gappy. So just go across, same as you've been doing with going under those horizontal bars. So work this across. Again, when you get to the end of the short side, you're going to pivot again. And you'll see this long side, you can take your straight pins and match it up, and it's going to match up just like that. And you're going to work this across that other long side of the back, and then finishing off on the other side. When you've done with that, go ahead and tie off and weave in those loose ends. You'll have this nice edge finish. You can see right there at the front, it's already coming together. It has a nice clean edge finish. That's the look we're going for. And then after we get that bottom all secured, we're going to meet back up and work the short strap and the long strap. When you've finished sewing on your bottom panel, you'll see it'll look really nice. You'll have this nice edge trimming all the way around. And now we're ready to go on to working our straps. We're going to start with our short strap first. So for our short strap, we're going to go ahead and open up our parachute buckle, and we're going to be working with the female side of that buckle. This is the top side, so right side facing up and right side facing up of that short strap. And just take that and insert it right into the buckle. We're going to overlap it about 1 inch, maybe a little more. And just take your straight pins and put a couple pins in there. So this yarn tail here is going to be for attaching the strap to the bag, so I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to get a separate just scrap yarn and tapestry needle, and I'm just going to stitch it right around the edges, just tacking it down. It's going to blend in, you're not going to see it. But first, I find it easy to kind of open it up, and we can go in on the underside and just weave in this tail to start, to keep it hidden, and we don't have to do a knot. And bring that right out to the edge. There we go. So you can fold that back down, put your straight pins in, and then you're ready to start tacking that. And I just go around that edge, nothing fancy. So go ahead and work this around, and then we will catch back up and work that long strap. Once you finish stitching that down, this is what it'll look like from the front, nice and clean, attached really well. Now we can go on to our long strap. Now our long strap is a little bit trickier, but it's not too bad. I'm going to walk you right through it. So right here at the end, we have our wide edge. This is the edge that's going to attach to the bag, and that's the one with our yarn tail. We're going to leave that alone and come all the way to the end. Right side up, find our other side of the buckle, and I'm going to go just in this space right here. It does have two spaces to come up and go down. My buckle in particular is a little bit tight, so I'm just going to come and go right down this one. And depending what buckle you use, yours could be slightly different, and that's fine. So I'm just going to pull it straight down and just pull a little bit of slack. Doesn't matter how much for now, because the whole point of this strap is it's going to be adjustable. Once we have a little bit of a tail coming out of that buckle, we're going to take our slide. So this is the part that makes it adjustable, which is really nice. So take this short strap that you pulled through, turn it towards you, and what we're going to do, actually, turn it this way, is I am going to stitch this edge right here, right around this slide right here in the middle. So it's going to be adhered to that permanently. So take your back, and same as our short strap, we're just going to weave that in to start it. Just concealing that. I'm going to go back through that same stitch just to lock that in. Okay, so now we can turn it. And however works best for you, we're just going to go right around that bar. Just going to wrap it around and back and forth, just to really attach it. This needs to be secure because we don't want it going anywhere. I'll show you once we have the strap all together, it'll make more sense and you'll see it. So we're just going to keep going back and forth, really stitching it tight to that middle slide. So this is what it'll look like once you're done. It doesn't need to be perfect or that pretty because this actually is not going to show it's going to be enclosed. It just does need to be secure. So once you get that tied around, just take your tapestry needle and yarn, and same as before, just weave in that loose end on the back side of that strap. And then you can just trim that off. So the next step is to fold this like this. This is our right side, and we're going to take it all the way to finding that wide edge. This is the edge that attaches to the bag, and we're going to weave it through here. Now it is wider, but it will go through just fine. So just take one of your corners, go through that first side of the slide, and pull through, and then you're going to take the other and put it through the other side, just like this. And there you have it. There's your strap. Here's the slide to make it adjustable, and as you pull that, you would adjust your buckle to even that out. And then we're going to go and attach this wide edge of the long strap, and then we'll do the wide edge of the short strap to our bag. We're going to be attaching our short strap first, and we want the short strap on this side, the side with the zipper pull. So we'll turn that around and then turn our strap. So this is the wrong side and this is the right side. So you see right here, this nice edge trim. We want to put our strap right on the right side, which is towards the side of the bag, right there. You can go ahead and pin these. Just put a couple pins in there if it makes it easier. Okay, so we do have this yarn tail. This is the one I left from constructing it. And we are going to sew this up the same way we've been sewing everything else. We're going to be catching this back horizontal bar right here. It's horizontal bars right there for the strap. And then for the bag, we're going to be catching same thing right here. These bars, which right now are horizontal, but when we were doing the Tunisian simple stitch, they were the vertical bars that we went under. So you should be very familiar with those by now. These are the bars we're going to be catching. And same as before, this will leave this nice trim here. And then when we turn the strap, we'll have the nice edge trim on that strap. So just starting at your corner, we already have that one. Just go right under that bar and pull that snug. Come around and go through that horizontal bar and pull it snug. You kind of can move this to lift it to see where those bars on the bag are. Just catch those. So it should be pretty simple for you because it's the same process we've been doing all along when sewing the bag together. So work up the strap and then tie it off and weave in that loose end. Usually at the top, I will just poke it through to the inside of the bag and then tie it off on the inside. Work on that, and then I will meet up with you for the other strap. So once you've sewn down that strap, by catching that horizontal bar and then that vertical bar that we went under for the simple stitch, you still have this nice trim right there where you did that side seam. And then when you turn the strap to the front, you'll see you still have that nice trim right there on the strap. So that's what we want because it looks really nice and clean. And now we just have to go and do our long strap. So it's going to be the same process on this side. We're going to take our right side facing the front of the bag and just place it right there. So it'll be right on the side, that side seam toward the side. Just pin it down. So then I already have my tapestry needle on that yarn tail. So the only difference on this one is where you're grabbing. So you're still doing the horizontal bar on the strap and then the vertical bars, but we're going to be catching the vertical bar right before that seam. So right there, if you can see it, they're kind of tucked right there, but right before that vertical seam that looks like a chain right there. So this one's already coming out of the end. So I'm just going to go right underneath that vertical bar there and pull that nice and snug. Then I'll come and get that horizontal bar on the strap and then just work it up exactly the same as your other strap. So the only difference is the horizontal bar is slightly tucked in there, just like that. So work this one up just like your other, all the way up to the top. And same thing, when I get to the top, I just bring it through to the inside of the bag and then I weave in those loose ends and tie it off on the inside. Once we've tied that off, same thing, nice edge there. You turn the strap and you still see that nice edge trim on the strap. So those straps are completely attached. Now you can go and buckle them together. And it's great with a slide, it's adjustable, so you can wear it however you like and adjust it to your desired length. Now the last thing to do is to work that lining inside, which will be nice because it's going to hide all these ends that we tied in from the cherries. So in the materials section of this tutorial, I did fail to mention that you will need 1/4 yard of 100% cotton for the lining. This on mine is actually doubled up, and just disregard that. I just happened to choose a really thin cotton. I didn't realize, and the threads, yarns from the cherries still showed through, so I just decided to double mine up, but don't worry about that. So cut your rectangle in the measurements referenced from the PDF. Your long side is going to be on your right and left side, and then you're going to go ahead and just fold it right in half. So once you have that folded, you're going to go and you can use a machine stitch, you can hand stitch, or if you don't like sewing or don't know how, you can use fabric glue and just do 1/2 inch seam allowance on the right side, and then the same 1/2 inch seam allowance on the left side. After I've sewn that 1/2 inch seam allowance on both sides, I want you to go ahead and press that seam open, just like this. press it open so it's nice and flat, and you can kind of just press that corner down. Once you have that, you're going to take any type of ruler, measuring tape, and just measure from that top corner down 3/4 of an inch. And you're going to mark a pin. I'm going to go back and forth so you can see. Right there. So we want to do another stitch line right across that tip of the triangle. So measure from your tip right there down 3/4 of an inch, and then sew a line, same thing, machine stitch, hand stitch, or glue, right across there. And then repeat that same process with the other corner on the other side. Once you get that stitch line across both ends of the triangle, you can turn it inside out and see, it'll make more sense. So right there, that created that bottom platform for the bag, for the inside of the lining. So doing it this way, it just decreases the amount of seams that we have to do, but still gives that nice shape. But we're actually gonna still keep it this way because we're gonna be inserting this right into the bag. So the wrong sides of the lining will be facing the wrong sides of the bag. So looking in, you'll have this nice clean edges. Once you do those triangles, sewing across the top there, go ahead and do what I've done right here, which is fold down and press a 1/2 of an inch seam allowance all the way around, just like that. And then we're ready to insert this into the bag. So take your bag, and the first thing I like to do to make it easier is take your side seam on the lining here and match it to your other side seam and just fold this like this. And then I put a pin right there. This is marking the side of the panel. And the same thing on the other side of the lining. It makes it easier to match up, so you can match up the side seams with the ends of the bag, and then these pins will mark the middle of the bag. So same thing you can do to the bag. Your tape measure. You can reference your pattern or just measure the total measurement from this side right here to this end and then divide it in half. I've already done that, so I know what my measurement is. Yours should be really close, but it could be slightly different. So that's just going to mark the center of that front panel. So take your lining and insert it into your bag. Just kind of get it in there. Okay, so then we'll start right here. Same as the zipper, I like to kind of do one side at a time. I'll turn it this way, it should be easier to see. So right there you see that center point of that side, and we're going to match that up with the seam of the side of the lining. We're going to put it down a little bit. Ideally we'd say, hey, let's come right up there to the zipper teeth. That looks nice and clean. The problem with that is when you go to slide your zipper, it's going to catch, and we don't want to do that. So you do need to have it down a little bit, probably most 1/4 of an inch from the top of those teeth. So pin that. And go to the front. We're going to match up these two. They're matching the halfway point on the lining and the halfway point on that front panel. See, same thing, I match those up, and then I'm going to reinsert that pin. So I do keep my lining down a little bit, just making sure there's room for that slide. And then you can work your straight pins across. And then you'll do the same thing. I'm just going to sew the front, then I'll go and sew the back. To me, it's just easier than having pins sticking out everywhere so you get poked less. This side's a little bit tricky with the end of the zipper, so you can kind of just turn it inside out like that. And then just take your seam right there on that side and just put it here. So this one is a little bit trickier for this, but really you just have to catch a couple stitches at the end to keep it in place, but it's kind of tucked in there, a little bit more so than the front. So it doesn't have to be overly sewn. And then you'll just do the same. You will do your lining across here and then pinning it. So like I said, I don't do both sides. I just do one at a time. That's easier for me. So you have it like this. And then use your sewing needle and thread. Same thing as before. I like to double it up. And I'm going to start right here at the front. So I'm just gonna, I put a knot at the end of my thread. I'm just gonna come in through that zipper tape at first, just to kind of lock in place and get that tail hidden. And the way I like to do it is to just catch, you can see this, a teeny piece of the zipper tape, and then I come and the very top edge of that fold, right at that fold on the lining, and pull that through. And right there, I just go and catch a couple stitches on the zipper tape, and then that very edge right there of the lining. You of course would not want to machine stitch this because you don't want your stitches showing through on the other side of the bag, but you could try and utilize fabric glue and just glue in that lining if you prefer. But this is pretty quick and easy as well. Pull that snug. So I'm just going to work this all the way around, just stitching that lining to the top. Once you get that front side completely sewn in, go ahead and test your zipper. Slides really nice. You just want to make sure that it's not catching on that lining at all. So that's good. And then we'll go and just do the exact same thing to the other side. My mid pin fell out, but that's okay. It worked out just fine. So I'm just going to go and start pinning this, starting at the front, and then just pin it all the way around. And same thing, just cut another sewing thread and sew that down, and then our bag should be complete. Just work these around. And same thing when you get to that end zipper, just turn it in. And even if it measures correctly, sometimes you'll get a little bunch of fabric, and that's okay. You can see right there, I can just do a little tuck and it'll work out just fine. You kind of just pinch it in there because there is that extra space right there at the end of the bag that you see kind of tucked under. So just work that through. Now meet back up with you at that very end. Coming to the end of sewing in that lining, have a couple more stitches. Again, I want to make sure not to get it too high that my zipper will get caught. And once I'm done, I'm just going to go through a couple stitches and go through my loop to kind of knot it in and pull that tight. Once I have that, kind of secures a little knot, and then I'm just going to weave this through. So I'm just going to take my needle and go through and kind of hide it. So right now it's in between. You can't see it from the front or back. Just pull it through, and then you can cut it right there so it's all enclosed inside the bag. There we go. So now we have our lining completely sewed in. Same thing, test your zipper. Great, it slides, doesn't catch. Looks really clean, and it hides all those yarn tails from the cherries. Complete. All right, so now your bag is complete. You have your slides on there. You can adjust the strap and wear it around your waist, around your shoulder, like a crossbody, but it's complete. So if you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to comment below or reach out to me privately through my Contact Us tab on my webpage. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give a thumbs up and subscribe.